Just waiting for YouTube. Good evening, YouTubers. Hello and welcome to live. No, start again. Hello. Hello and welcome to Mythical Ireland Book Talk, episode 10. Tonight, we are talking about Charles Squire's mythology of the Celtic people. And I think you'll be very interested because if you're not familiar with Irish mythology, well, if you've been watching Live Irish Myths, 129 episodes of it, you should be damn well familiar at this stage. But if you're not, this is a very good primer, very good introduction, and one of the places that started me off on the journey all the way back in 1999. So there you go. Hope everybody is safe and well, no matter where you are in the world, and that you're all feeling good. YouTube, Facebook. There we go. I was waiting for a comment just to see if everybody was okay. On YouTube this evening, Archaeoastronomy Database is actually, first in the house, but I thought I saw a comment from Daisy earlier. Good evening to you both. Daisy Peters is there. Hi, Anthony. Oh, pardon me. All of our Tua de Mythflix. I have a book by Charles Squire, Celtic Myths and Legends. This book shows the differences and some points of similarity in Irish mythology. That's the one. And the British. Is it the same book, Anthony? Yes, I assume so, Daisy. Deborah Williams in the house. Hope you're all doing well. It's cold, rainy, and icy here in Hillsborough, Maryland, and expecting snow this evening, hopefully. Good to be with everyone today, and a delight to have you along. Deborah, welcome. Mandy McCurl is in the house. Evening, everyone. Hope you're staying well. And she's saying hello to Debbie. Brilliant stuff. Mandy McCurl, sorry, is just who I was talking about. Scott Kennedy says, hi, all. I almost never get to catch these live. Well, Scott, I suppose it's your lucky day or your unlucky day, depending on how you look at it. Welcome along anyway. Sláinte, fáilte. Well, what a nice surprise, says John Main. Banachti, everyone. Agus Ort Fain, John Conasatá to Mochara Agus Conasatá Nadini Golair Gonde Corky. Starlight Spellsinger says, hey there, first time here. Well, a very big Cade Mila Fáilte. 100,000 welcomes to Starlight Spellsinger on YouTube. Good evening. Elena J says, hello from snowy Great Lakes. Well, thankfully, we've no snow in Ireland. Stephen Walker says, hi, everybody. Hello, Stephen. And on Facebook, Brady M. Tussey says, good afternoon, Anthony, and all who are here. Indeed, welcome along. And hello, Brady. Amy Wallace-Dolan says, hello, all. Gia Gutch. Donna Marie Story says, good morning from Australia. Well, good morning. Good day, mate. So it's Thursday morning there. It must be early enough in the morning. Well, a very good Thursday morning to you from Wednesday evening here in the Boyne Valley. Always a delight to see our Australian friends in the house. Janet Moran says, didn't think I'd make it, but I did. Gia Gutch to all. Yes, indeed, Janet. Good to see that you did make it. Fáilte. Mariana Dunn says, Banachti to Artua and Anthony from Virginia. Hello, Mariana. Great to see you. Barb Jordan says, good afternoon. Hello, Barb. Long time no talk. Laura Puente says, hello. So excited to catch you live. Well, we're excited that you're here. So welcome along. Jacinta Paisley says, hi, Anthony and everyone. Hello, Jacinta. Charlie Grover says, hello, all. Giaguch, Charlie. Yana Holika says, hello from Czech Republic. Hello, Yana. Welcome along. Karima McDwyer says, hello from Saqqara, Egypt. I've missed a few. Great to see and hear you again. And indeed, we are greatly pleased that you've been able to come back to us, Karima. Thank you. Sonia Skadisdotter, I do apologize if I pronounce that wrong. It says hello from France. Bonsoir. Ralph Waldron says Tronona wa tua fáilte, Ralph. It's great to see you in Athleague, isn't it? Barbara Murphy says hello from Tucson, Arizona. And of course, always a great pleasure to welcome another Murphy into the household. Alwyn Roy Badziak says hi, Anthony and everyone. Hello, Alwyn. Good to see you. Denise Murphy, another Murphy. There you go. They're piling in. Says hello from Connecticut. Getting ready for a snowstorm. Ooh. Make sure you have the gloves and the scarf and the hat on. Alan Hoskin says hi from Ballina, Killaloe. Good to see you. Hello, Alan. And greetings from the Boyne Valley to the Shannon Valley. Yvette Tillema says hello from Keene, New York. high of -13 Celsius. Yay for book talk. Hi to hi Anthony. Well, that is cold. I mean, I stood at the side of the road this evening capturing a picture of Jupiter and Saturn over Newgrange, and I thought it was a bit nippy, but it's plus something, definitely +5, maybe +7 or 8 even. Oh, once it goes into the minus, you have to get the whiskey out. But Margaret McKenna is in the house, says hi. It's a quick dip in before I do my family taxiing. Well, you're going to have to tell the family, Margaret, they're going to have to rearrange their lives. This isn't, mind you, in fairness, it probably, I only gave you, what was it, 8 hours notice or something like that. Anyway, no problem. Good to see you, and hopefully you'll be able to at least hear some of it. Anne McCallum says, hello, Anthony, and all the book talk followers. Snowing and cold here. Looking forward to this. Seems to be a theme on the other side of the ocean. Lots of snow in the States. Nuala Doyle says, hello, hi all from Tala. Hello, Nuala. Welcome along. You're very welcome into the library this evening. Bernadette McCafferty says, hello from Donegal. Hello, Bernadette from the Wee County. Amanda Perry says, hello, Anthony from Birmingham, Alabama. Hang on till I just get that right. Hello. Right back at you. Rose Corraine says, hi, everyone from Donegal. Another Donegaler in the house. Hello, Rose. Great to see you. Matthew Bessel says, Sláinte tua, snow coming to Pomanauk. I don't know how to pronounce that. And that's from the Gay Celts. Sláinte all. Welcome along, Matthew and the Gay Celts. It's great to see you. Too early for whiskey, says Yvette. See, it's after 8 o'clock in the evening here, so you could kind of make an excuse for it, Anyway, that's it. It's great. Cazador says, good evening on YouTube. Hello, Cazador. I always say that the YouTube handles are interesting because you don't know who people are. Well, sorry, I apologize because I'm assuming that's not your real name, and it could well be your real name. But some of the handles on YouTube have been amusing. Sue Prenter says, evening, Anthony, looking forward to the book talk. Hello, Sue, welcome along. Ryan Murphy says, Jigich, yet another Murphy has joined the Murphy contingent. Grania O'Reilly says, hi, Anthony, love all your photos, and after seeing Orion Stone, I'm wondering if at some stage you could discuss the astronomy influences in ancient Ireland and mythology generally. Yes. I'm just trying to figure out how much of that we have covered in Live Irish Myths, and I think we have covered a substantial amount. But a special talk devoted purely to the astronomy would be an interesting one. I think we have done it, though, but I'll have a look back and see what we have and haven't done. Shaylin Kiley says, hello again from Michigan. Hello, Shaylin. It's great to see you. Still light out, says Yvette. I don't know. Is there a law against drinking whiskey during the day? Well, maybe there is where you are. It's never too early for the holy waters, is Bernadette McCafferty. Ali Athy Thompson is saying, hello, Anthony. Hope you're keeping well. Keeping grand, Ali. Thank you for asking. And I hope you are in the same boat. Good to see you. Joe Butler is in the house, says hello to her. Excited to talk about books, as am I. Lars of Mars. You see, this is what I'm talking about. YouTube handles. Lars of Mars is in the house and says, evening all. Hello, Lars. The full Irish GK says, Tanonoa, good evening, good to Fáilte. It's great to see you again. Maeve Fiona Callahan is in the house and says, hello, Anthony, and all the Tua. Yes, indeed. Hello, Maeve. Wonderful to see you also. Paul Terry says, back from Wisconsin, saying hi. Hi, Paul. Do I have anything to talk about before we start? Well, I have a joke, but I know from previous reactions that they're kind of lead balloon territory, so maybe I won't go there unless I'm cajoled, unless I'm forced into it. Just perhaps somebody might share the live stream from the Mythical Ireland page onto the Mythical Ireland community page. So in the meantime, while I get my act together, I should probably do the usual announcements just to say, don't forget, yes, if you are, something that I don't normally announce is, okay, all right, the joke. Okay, yes, Janet, right. Barbara Kling is in the house, says, hello, Anthony and Tua from a very cold Vermont. we're getting a picture that it's very cold in the States. Maya Sadarangani says, hello from Hampton, New Hampshire, USA. Hello, Maya. Good evening. Yvette Tillaba says, joke. Did you hear about the two guys caught stealing a calendar? They both got 6 months. I'll get my coat. Hope it wasn't a Mythical Ireland calendar. Paul Gowan has shared the live stream. Paul, you're a gentleman. So, anyway, if you've been enjoying the photography, please don't forget that the photographs, many of them, you can purchase photographic prints of them and mounted prints, depending on your preference and your flavor. I just want to post that in as a comment where you can have a look at the Newgrange photographs, for instance, or if you've been enjoying the astronomy ones of a couple of the recent planetary conjunction photographs there. Maybe something you might want to gift to a friend or something. As always, I mentioned to the Mythical Ireland patrons over at patreon.com/Mythical Ireland. Thank you very much for supporting the work that is done by Mythical Ireland, and your contribution to that is very gratefully received. So before we get started proper talking about Charles Squire, it is customary in these live streams to mention some of the recent arrivals in the library. Now, I think I mentioned this on the last time, but I want to mention it again, and that is, it's called Burnt Mounds in Northern and Western Europe, a study of prehistoric technology and society by John O'Neill. Here's that name, that famous name, O'Neill, the Enail, the sons of Niall of the Nine Hostages, the famous king of Tara. There's lots of O'Neills all over Ireland and all over the world. Anyway, this is like a very, very comprehensive. It's like a thesis, or a dissertation. I have since found out that this is quite a rare book and is worth potentially quite a lot of money. I say quite a lot. I had one archaeologist tell me he'd imagine it's worth something like 100 quid. I paid €2.50 for it in a charity shop. Somebody donated it, didn't want it anymore, and turns out that I got a good one. Anyway, that's in the archaeology. Well, it will be in the archaeology reference section. In the history reference section are two new arrivals. One is a rather aged-looking green hardback book, which is entitled Ireland, a General and Regional Geography. Sorry, this is more geography than history. I do apologize. I'm just trying to find out when it was published. The first edition, the preface was completed in 1948. First published June the 8th, 1950, and this is a fourth edition, 1969. So that should be interesting. It's a reference book. I hardly think it's one that will be read from cover to cover. James Perry is in the house. Good evening, James. Hello. Valerie Gallagher says, greetings. Waiting for a big snowstorm here in Rhode Island. Everybody from the States is saying it's cold and it's either snowing or it's going to snow. Well, enjoy it if you can. Katrina Matthews Channing says, afternoon, everyone. Hello, Katrina. Welcome along. Hope you enjoyed that joke. Paul Gowan says, good evening to our Clon Gullair. Big hello to all the community family, even if you've just been born to us tonight. Nicely said, Paul. The other one is called The Story of Ireland. In Search of a New National Memory, with an introduction by Fergal Keane. And this was accompanying a television series, which was broadcast on RTE. And I remember seeing several episodes of that series. So this is the book to go along with it. So it should be interesting. The Story of Ireland, the International Island. So that'll be an interesting one. Anyway, that's adding to the collection. I think the next one is one that you guys will be rather excited about. Maybe not. I could be mistaken. Karima says something that's quite a factual statement, which is that history is influenced by geography. Absolutely. Lar Herbert says, hi all. Hello, Lar. Anybody else that I've missed? Nez Marion is there as well. Good afternoon from the sunny Isle of Alameda, California. Love and blessings for you all. Been playing Eddie Lenhan podcast since Monday. Thanks, Anthony. Yes, have they been working okay? Because he uses the F word quite a lot. The next one is, it's such a delight to get this into my hands. And I only had a very, very quick chance today to peruse it. It is on Táin, right? But it is Táin Bo Cúailnge in a way that I've never seen, which is, it's a graphic novel of the story of Táin Bo Cúailnge. And it is as Gaeilge. It's in Irish. And it is the most beautiful, sumptuous, sublime work. It is gorgeous. And I reckon I will probably be able to follow the story. I mightn't understand all of the Irish Nihigam, but I reckon I'll be able to follow it just based on the pictures. And it is just the most extraordinarily exquisite work. It's beautiful. I don't want to share too much of it because I don't want to I don't want to breach copyright on that. But as you can see, that's Queen Maeve, and there's the scald crow, or the bow, or the bob, or the bov, depending on how you pronounce it. I bought this secondhand, so I don't. Somebody's asking for a link. Perhaps somebody might do a quick Google search. The authors are Colman O'Rahilly, Barry Reynolds, and the Cartoon Saloon. So if you maybe Google that, Cartoon Saloon, it was published in 2006. So I'm not sure if it's still in print. Perhaps if somebody is able to do a search for us and tell us. But I tell you, that is a really gorgeous book, and I'm very happy to add it to the collection. One that I don't even know why I bought this, but I just had a peculiar interest in it, and I reckon my good friend Richard Moore. Don't forget that podcast number 12, Mythical Ireland podcast number 12, which is currently only available for patrons. Is the first of two lengthy interviews or discussions, conversations with Richard Moore. Sorry, that's podcast 13. I apologize. Podcast 12 was Doubt the Crematorium. And the second podcast with Richard will be a discussion of myths and monuments and landscape, etc. So I know that Richard will be interested in this because he is hugely interested in Egypt. It is in French. Description de l'Égypte, but it is actually contains drawings and representations of Egyptian artifacts and hieroglyphs and monuments and statues. It is the most amazing piece of work. Anybody who has any remote interest in Egypt, it is massively comprehensive. I gather this is an old publication that was reprinted. This is 1995, but I think the original is, I could be mistaken. I haven't, again, had much of a chance to, you think I'd kind of prepare for these things a bit better. Yeah. Publié par les ordres de Napoleon Bonaparte. So, published on the order of Napoleon. So, presumably it is a couple of centuries since it was first compiled. Fabulous piece of work. And one other, these were cheap. I mean, guys, you see, when you walk into a secondhand bookshop and you see stuff like that and it's got a price tag of €2 or €3 on it, I'm inclined not to leave it sitting there. It's like, no. I mean, I mightn't be immediately interested in its contents, but there's loads of people who will be. And if it's in the library, you know, I don't know, my kids, for instance, one of my kids in particular has taken a huge interest in history, Tara, and she's been getting 100% in all her history tests in school, and she's really, really interested. Now, she's more interested in Irish history. And another one, which is The Art and Architecture of Egypt. which is a little hardback book printed in full color. Again, another small book, but another beautiful book. I just couldn't turn it down. I mean, look at the price tag. €2 and 50 cents. Like, I mean, you'd want to be mad not to, wouldn't you? I mean, because I clearly have loads of room to put books in. Anyway, Margaret McKenna says, Tá sé go hálan. It is lovely. Tá mé ag fólam mo chuid gaeilge faoi láthair agus bhéidir go cowraíonn on leabhar lum. I think what you're saying there is you're learning mo chuid gaeilge faoi láthair. You're learning Irish, and maybe you will get that book for yourself. Brilliant idea. Dermot Ryan, Egypt is special. From the duality of Moses and Pharaoh, the grave robbers, Orion's belt being the Giza pyramids in plan is the key to the global pyramid culture, and the Vatican gold rush from Christopher Columbus. That's I think from the likes of Graham Hancock's work, and what's his name? The guy he has written several books with. And Adrian Gilbert, I think, had written something with them at one point. I can see he's a baldy guy, and somebody prompt me, can't remember. Desiree Riley's in the house. Hello, Anthony and the two. I hope everyone's doing well. Everyone's doing great. I better start talking about the book. That's why I had to buy shipping containers. I see a book, I want the book, I buy the book, says Barbara. This is the issue. You can never have too many books. You just don't have enough bookshelves. Hi from Florida, says Iris. Hello, Iris. Will you be putting the list of books online? Please do, says Karima. That's actually a good idea, yes. Doris O'Hara says hello, Anthony and everyone. Hello, Doris. Shirley Sheila Barr says hello from Israel. Hello and good evening, or it's later at night there, but good evening. Yes, I agree. Relating to Hancock and Ireland, doesn't seem to be bothered with Ireland at all for some reason. All the better for me. On time, €10 in stock at the Rathcrohan Visitor Centre. Thank you, Bernadette McCafferty, for that fantastic information. Robert Boval, thank you, Mandy. Yes, Robert Boval. I hate that when something's in your head and you can't. Anyway, so 22. Wow, interesting numbers. Because see, when the video goes onto YouTube later, I just want to put a tag into it saying skip forward to 22:30 to skip all the hellos and introductions, but they'll miss all the best bits, like the joke, you know. Andrew Collins is another one. Yeah, I'm acquainted with Andrew. We have met on occasion and we have corresponded on occasion. Anyway, so tonight's book talk is about well, it's called nowadays The Mythology of Celtic People by Charles Squire. It was originally published in 1912 as Celtic Myth and Legend, Poetry and Romance by the Gresham Publishing Company, London. This edition published in 1998 by Sennett, an imprint of Tiger Books International. And I'm so delighted that they did, because I remember at the time there was a bookshop in Drogheda, which isn't in existence anymore. And they used to have a section where they had sort of bargain books. And occasionally they would have these old books that have been reprinted. And they were generally on sale quite cheaply, you know. Whereas for a book that size, you normally might have paid 10 or 15 euros or whatever. These are like $3.99 and $4.99. And this and I'll show you the other one. This and I think we've mentioned, haven't we? We've done an episode on Ancient Irish Tales by Clark and Slover. Sorry, Cross and Slover. I'm always getting those names wrong because it's Tom P. Cross and Clark Harris Slover. These served as my introduction to Irish mythology way back in 1999. These were my primers. This is how I started out. And very soon after that, the absolutely brilliantly wonderful Dictionary of Celtic Mythology, Oxford, by James McKillop, that we have mentioned in so many episodes at this stage. It's ridiculous, and I'm sure they've gone into a new print run because so many of you have added this to your collections. So the Squire is a very useful introduction. Now, it's Celtic, so in other words, it includes British mythology, which is mainly Welsh mythology. But when you read it, a great deal of it, of course, pertains to Ireland, because if you're studying Celtic mythology, the vast body of mythology that emerges from Ireland constitutes about 80 or 90% of Celtic mythology. Vicky Wallace Southall is in the house and says, Evan and Chile are waving at my tribe. Hello, Vicky and Evan and Chile. Good evening to you. Stacey Herman Lawrence says, hi, Anthony and all. I've arrived late and I feel like I've missed so much. You haven't. We've only really started about the book, but you missed the joke. So you'll have to rewind later on, because the joke had everybody rolling around in knots laughing. Janet Moran is waving back. Hello, Evan. Presented in this fascinating book are the mythological and poetic traditions of the earliest inhabitants of the British Isles to leave written records. The Gaelic and the British Celts, the gods of which they wrote, were long banned by the priest's bell, book, and candle, but they lived on in legend to be transformed into ancient kings, dubious saints, or the fairies of common folklore. I said the F word. Now the companions of the Red Branch, the birds of Rhiannon, the blood-soaked Crum Croach, and Arthur and his knights emerge as the gods and heroes the ancient Celts always knew them to be. In Mythology of the Celtic People, first published in 1912, Charles Squire provides explanations, introductions to the chief characters, and the historical background to clarify the intricate web of stories that have been passed down through the ages. He recaptures the magic and romance of ancient Celtic myths, the beauty of the intricate poetry, and the dark fascination of Celtic beliefs. Yes. By the way, you should, if you're interested, be able to pick up copies of this online, and there certainly should be quite affordable secondhand copies available on the likes of ABE Books, etc. This book is what the author believes to be the only attempt yet made to put the English reader into possession in clear, compact, and what it is hoped may prove agreeable form of the mythical, legendary, and poetic traditions of the earliest inhabitants of our islands who have left us written records, the Gaelic and the British Celts. And I think, of course, one of the reasons that so much Irish mythology survives and so little British is the influence of the Romans. The Romans didn't quite get as far as Ireland. We know they came here, but they didn't conquer, more importantly. It is true that admirable translations and paraphrases of much of Gaelic mythical saga have been recently published, and that Lady Charlotte Guest's translation of the Mabinogion has been placed within the reach of the least wealthy reader. But these books not merely each cover a portion. This is the way they wrote a century ago. But these books not merely each cover a portion only of the whole ground, but in addition contain little elucidatory matter. Their characters stand isolated and unexplained, and the details that would explain them must be sought for with considerable trouble in the lectures and essays of scholars to learned societies. The reader to whom this literature is entirely new is introduced, as it were, to numerous people of whose antecedents he knows nothing, and the effect is often disconcerting enough to make him lay down the volume in despair. Anyway, this is basically Charles Squire seemingly suffering from a moment of hubris. Anyway, I'm not going to read the rest of that because he's clearly putting down other writers and bumming himself up. There was a lot of that went on, and you even see that sometimes in archaeology, whether a century ago, where they're writing and they're quite disdainful, to say the least, sometimes downright insulting to people who have written in the same field. Terry Lynn is in the house from Colorado. Hello. And Patricia Patsy O'Malley Boyd says, good evening, everyone. Falcha. Morwena Blogs is also there. Hello, hello, hello. A must-have, says Yvette, is the Dictionary of Celtic Mythology by James McKillop. Even if your house is full of books and your bookshelves are under severe strain, you still need to get it. Completely right. Okay, so I'm going to read, obviously, sorry, one of my many little bookmarks, bookmarking various sections. There's a section called The War with the Giants, which largely covers Caught My Chura, We won't do that one today because apart from the fact that we've already covered Cop Moitura in Live Irish Myths, is the fact that next week's Live Irish Myths, actually, that has to be just completely finalized. Morgan Daimler is definitely coming on to Live Irish Myths. I just have to find out which episode she's going to be appearing on, hopefully next Monday. And she's going to be talking about her recent full translation into English of Cop Moitura. So we'll be doing that. We'll be covering that in the next week or so. So instead, I'm going to go on. I'm dropping the bookmarks all over the place here. I do apologize. Sorry about that. How rather unprofessional of me. So there's a section called The Rise of the Sun God, which is about Lu. There's a section called The Gods Arrive, which is basically about the arrival of the Tuatha Dé Danann as relayed in the Laur Gawala in the Book of Invasions. But I'm going to, I think I'll start by reading from the chapter that's called The Conquest of the Gods by Mortals. And you will know, I hope you will be familiar with this as that part of Laur Gawala, or the mythic history of Ireland, in which the Tuatha Dé Danann are vanquished by the arriving Milesians. I really miss secondhand bookshops, says Karima. Thankfully, ours are open again. They were closed for 6 weeks. Anthony McCluskey says, hello from Anthony and Ross in Glenlyon in Highland, Perthshire. Hello, Anthony and Ross. You're very welcome along to Mythical Ireland Book Talk. Of what Bob had... B-A-D-B is a very interesting one, because apparently in modern Irish you would pronounce it bow. But I always say Bob. The Bob. Anyway, take your pick. Of what Bob had in mind when she uttered this prophecy, we have no record. Oh yeah, this was at the end of Cop Moitura, the Song of the Morrigan, or the Bob. But it was true, the twilight of the Irish gods was at hand. A new race was coming across the sea to dispute the ownership of Ireland with the people of the goddess Danu. And these newcomers were not divinities like themselves, but men like ourselves, ancestors of the Gaels. See, this is very interesting, right? Because we've mentioned this, and this has been borne out by modern archaeological and DNA and carbon dating science. And that is that there was a long-standing tradition or understanding that the Irish, the modern Irish, were descended from the Gael being the Milesians being this apparently mythical arrival into Ireland, dated, according to the annals, to around 1700 BC. Recently it has been shown that the people who built the great monuments of the Neolithic people were actually replaced by the Beaker culture, Bronze Age arrival. And so if you were willing, like I am, to correlate the two, the Neolithic people with the monument builders, the Neolithic monument builders with the deities, and those strongly associated with building the monuments, and the Milesians with the Beakers, then it would seem that that belief has been borne out and proven by the science. This story of the conquest of the gods by mortals, which seems such a strange one to us, is typically Celtic. The Gaelic mythology is the only one which has preserved it in any detail, but the doctrine would seem to have been common at one time to all the Celts. It was, however, of less shame to the gods than would otherwise have been, for men were of as divine descent as themselves. The dogma of the Celts was that men were descended from the god of death and first came from the land of the dead to take possession of the present world. Caesar tells us in his too short account of the Gauls that they believed themselves to be sprung from Dispater, the god of the underworld. In the Gaelic mythology, Dispater was called Bile, a name which has for root the syllable bel, B-E-L, meaning to die. The god Beli in British mythology was no doubt the same person, while the same idea is expressed by the same root in the name of Balor, the terrible Fomorian, whose glance was death. Sorry, just scratched my nose. And you know what? Don't forget that when you scratch your nose with everything that's going on, I have a little bottle of hand sanitizer here, and I will immediately sanitize my hands having done so, because apparently that's one of the ways you can get COVID, because it might be on your hand, and if you touch your nose, you might introduce it into your respiratory system. So there you go. Sorry, I do apologize. The post-Christian Irish chroniclers, seeking to reconcile Christian teachings with the still vital pagan mythology by changing the gods into ancient kings and incorporating them into the annals of the country with appropriate dates, also disposed of the genuine early doctrine by substituting Spain for Hades and giving a highly fanciful account of the origin and wanderings of their ancestors. So while all of the viewers in the United States are talking about snow, Daisy Peters says it's too hot in Brazil. Yeah. It's amazing how the weather changes from place to place. I mean, in Ireland, it changes when you go from county to county. Tom King is in the house. Hello, Tom. To use a Hibernicism appropriate in this connection, the first Irishman was a Scythian called Phoenius Farsa. Deprived of his own throne, he had settled in Egypt, where his son Neil married, that's Niul, Neil, married a daughter of the reigning pharaoh. Her name was Scota, and she had a son called Gael, Goidel, whose great-grandson was named Ever Scott, the whole genealogy being probably invented to explain the origin of the three names by which the Gaels call themselves: Finn, Scott, and Gael. Phoenius and his family and clan were turned out of Egypt for refusing to join in the persecution of the children of Israel, and sojourned in Africa for 42 years. Their wanderings took them to the altars of the Philistines by the lake of Osiers. Then, passing between Rusicada and the hilly country of Syria, they travelled through Mauritania as far as the Pillars of Hercules, and thence landed in Spain, where they lived many years, greatly increasing and multiplying. The same route is given by the 12th century British historian Geoffrey of Monmouth as that taken by Brutus and the Trojans when they came to colonize Britain. Its only connection with any kind of fact is that it corresponds fairly well with what ethnologists consider must have been the westward line of migration taken, not, curiously enough, by the Aryan Celts, but by the pre-Aryan Iberians. And I presume he's talking about there the Beaker, because they emerged originally from Iberia. It is sufficient for us. Oh, by the way, in that very fanciful concoction of historical record in the annals, you see, the annals are very accurate, and we know because there's a lot of the annals post-Christian, or post the arrival of Christianity, and we've done episodes of Live Irish Myths about the annals, have been proven to be rather accurate in terms of their description of astronomical phenomena, for instance, eclipses and the appearance of comets and this, that, and the other, and then the plagues, etc., etc. However, it seems that there was a certain amount of invention went on in terms of the pre-Christian era. But there's always, in the back of your head, like this connection with Egypt is sort of, it's hoisted up there on a flagpole by a lot of people who seem to want to prove a connection between Ireland and Egypt. And of course, the one of the proving factors is always the faience beads found on the burial at Tara. And as we discussed recently, those faience beads were most likely made in Wessex and not in Egypt. However, even if they were Egyptian faience beads, does not prove that the young man who was found buried at Tara, who wore them, was Egyptian. However, despite all of that, there's always a kernel of truth in the myths. And there has to be, to my mind, a kernel of truth in what the annals say about the pre-Christian era. So we can never rule it out. It is sufficient for us to find, like we spoke recently in the past few months about how, the mythology of incest associated with Newgrange has been, I wouldn't say proven to be true, but it's an interesting circumstance that we now know that one of the men buried in Newgrange was the son of an incestuous relationship. Anyway, I'm diverting a little bit from the path. Marlon O'Kearmack is in the house. Hello to you and welcome. And Catherine Woodruff is also there. Hello, good evening, folks. It is sufficient for us to find the first men in Spain, remembering that Spain stood for the Celtic Hades or Elysium. In this country, Bregon, the father of two sons, Bile and Ith, had built a watchtower from which one winter's evening Ith saw far off over the seas a land he had never noticed before. Now you remember that 22 years ago when I was reading this for the first time, Richard had introduced me to the mythology of the Milesians and had pointed out that the local legend here in Drogheda was that Amergin Glungyal, their poet, their bard and spiritual figurehead, who bargained with the tutelary deities, the ladies, Banba, Fola and Eru, in relation to coming into Ireland, was buried here in Drogheda under the Millmount. And so this was instantly fascinating. What's going on here is that this is a summary or a I'm struggling to think of words this evening, paraphrasing of Laura Gowalla, which is the Book of Invasions. It is on winter evenings, when the air is pure, that man's eyesight reaches farthest, remarks the old tract called the Book of Invasions, gravely accounting for the fact that Ith saw Ireland from Spain. Now, Ith could not have seen Ireland from Spain because Ireland is too far from Spain to be seen from Spain. But there you go. Anne McCallum says, hello, Anthony and Ross. Been in Glenlyon many times, from Glasgow, now in Canada. Brilliant stuff. Oh, yes, she's saying hello to the Anthony and Ross. Wishing to examine it nearer, he set sail with thrice 30 warriors and landed without mishap at the mouth of the river Scania. The country seemed to him to be uninhabited, and he marched with his men towards the north. At last he reached Alyach, near the present town of Londonderry, which is now called Derry, Londonderry, depending on which tradition you're from. Here he found the three reigning kings of the people of the goddess Danu, the Tuatha Danann, Macul, Macecht, and Magrania, the sons of Ogma and grandsons of the Dagda. These had succeeded Nuada the Silver-Handed, killed in the battle with the Fomors, and had met after burying their predecessor in a tumulus called Greenon Alyach, which still stands on the base of the Inishowen Peninsula between Loch Swilly and Loch Foyle, to divide his kingdom among them. Unable to arrive at any partition satisfactory to all, they appealed to the newcomer to arbitrate. And here is yet again a stunning example of how Irish mythological tradition, which ostensibly is pre-Christian and probably prehistoric, presages, prognosticates, as it were, foreshadows Irish history, because it's like you're reading a history book, unable to arrive at any partition satisfactory to all. I mean, to this day, the partition of Ireland continues to cause serious difficulties. And it has done for many a long era, including in the mythological era, and we've spoken about that, haven't we, on a few occasions. The Milesians divided the island north and south. The Firbolg, or the Firbolg, if you prefer, divided it into 5 separate kingdoms. The advice of Ith was moral rather than practical. Act according to the laws of justice was all that he would say to the claimants. And then he was indiscreet enough to burst into enthusiastic praises of Ireland for its temperate climate and its richness in fruit, honey, wheat, and fish. Nikki, I probably shouldn't wade into that discussion any further, because I will undoubtedly offend someone or other, so I won't. Such sentiments from a foreigner seemed to the Tuatha De Danann suggestive of a desire to take the country from them. They conspired together and treacherously killed Ith at a place since called Ith's Plain. They, however, spared his followers, who returned to Spain, taking their dead leader's body with them. The indignation there was great, and Mille, well, there's a fada on the E here, Meal, we would call him, or Meal, Bille's son and its nephew, determined to go to Ireland and get revenge. Meal therefore sailed with his 8 sons and their wives. 36 chiefs, each with his ship full of warriors, accompanied him. By the magic arts of their druid, Amergin of the Fair Knee, that's the aforementioned Amergin Glungal, they discovered the exact place at which Ith had landed before them and put in to shore there. 2 alone failed to reach it alive. The wife of Amergin died during the voyage, and Aranon, the son of Meal, on approaching the land, climbed to the top of the mast to obtain a better view, and falling off, was drowned. The rest disembarked safely upon the 1st of May. What an interesting date for them to arrive. Basically, Bealtaine. It probably wasn't, or was it, in the annals? I wonder whether it was rendered the 1st of May or whether it was rendered, Law Fela Bealtaine or something similar. Amergin was the first to land, which is interesting because he's not the political figurehead. He's the bardic, druidic, spiritual figurehead. Planting his right foot on Irish soil, he burst into a poem preserved in both the Book of Lecan and the Book of Ballymote, and that is the Song of Armageddon. Excuse me for the yawning. I'm terribly sorry. I've been working very hard and not sleeping enough. I do apologize. Terribly sorry. It is a good example of the pantheistic philosophy of the Celtic races, and a very close parallel to it is contained in an early Welsh poem called The Battle of the Trees, and attributed to the famous bard Taliesin. I am the wind that blows upon the sea, said Amergin. I am the ocean wave. I am the murmur of the surges. Big difference. I am the murmur of the surges. I am 7 battalions. I am a strong bull. I am an eagle on a rock. I am a ray of the sun. I am the most beautiful of herbs. I am a courageous wild boar. I am a salmon in the water. I am a lake upon a plain. By the way, those words there were very, very inspirational to me in my writing of Return to Segish, which I hope to publish in the early part of 2021. Keep an eye out for that. I am a cunning artist. I am a gigantic sword-wielding champion. I can shift my shape like a god. In which direction shall we go? Shall we hold our council in the valley or on the mountaintop? Where shall we make our home? What land is better than this island of the setting sun? And that, my dear listener, that phrase inspired, of course, the title of the book that I would write. Was that 7 or 8 years after first encountering the work of Squire, Island of the Setting Sun in Search of Ireland's Ancient Astronomers. Don't forget you can get signed copies on the Mythical Ireland website. Just saying. They make good Christmas presents. 2020 edition, recently published. What land is better than this island of the setting sun? Where shall we walk to and fro in peace and safety? Who can find you clear springs of water as I can? Who can tell you the age of the moon but I, an astronomer, druid, poet, priest? Who can call the fish from the depths of the sea as I can? Who can cause them to come near the shore as I can? Who can change the shapes of the hills and headlands as I can? I am a bard who is called upon by seafarers to prophecy. Javelins shall be wielded to avenge our wrongs. I prophesy victory. I end my song by prophesying all other good things. So Amergin was in quite a happy mood at the time. And Squire now compares this to the Welsh bard Taliesin, who sings in the same strain as the druid Amergin, his unity with and therefore his power over all nature, animate and inanimate. Yes, Bernadette. Yeah, always try the website first. I mean, you'll pay a little bit more in postage and that, but you'll get a signed copy. Desiree says, at least my porch pirate didn't get my copy of Island of the Setting Sun. Yes, and you'll be delighted to know, Desiree, that your second calendar, folks, can you believe that Desiree's Mythical Ireland calendar was robbed from her porch? Your second calendar is on its way. It was posted yesterday. I have been in many shapes, he says. Before I attained a congenial form, I have been a narrow blade of a sword. I have been a drop in the air. I have been a shining star. I have been a word in a book. I am the word. Doesn't that sound familiar? I have been a book in the beginning. I have been a light in a lantern a year and a half. I have been a bridge for passing over 80 rivers. I have journeyed as an eagle. I have been a boat on the sea. I have been a director in battle. I have been a sword in the hand. I have been a shield in fight. I have been the string of a harp. I have been enchanted for a year in the foam of water. There is nothing in which I have not been. It is strange to find Gael and Briton combining to voice almost the same words. This doctrine of the mystical Celts, to voice almost in the same words this doctrine of the mystical Celts, who, while still in a state of semi-barbarism, saw with some of the greatest of ancient and modern philosophers the one in the many and a single essence in all the manifold forms of life. I think Squire is probably reflecting the thought of scholars of the time in suggesting that anybody pre-Christian was barbarous, but I don't think so. I don't happen to agree. The Milesians foresaw, following the Irish annalists, it will be convenient to call the first Gaelic settlers in Ireland, began their march on Tara, which was the capital of the Tuatha Dé Danann, as it had been in earlier days, the chief fortress of the Firbolgs, and would in later days be the dwelling of the high kings of Ireland. On their way, they met with a goddess called Banba, the wife of Macul. She greeted Amergin. If you have come to conquer Ireland, she said, your cause is no just one. Certainly it is to conquer it we have come, replied Amergin, without condescending to argue upon the abstract morality of the matter. Then at least grant me one thing, she asked. What is that, replied Amergin? That this island shall be called by my name. It shall be, said Amergin. A little further on, they met a second goddess, Fola, the wife of Macecht, who made the same request and received the same answer from Amergin. Last of all, at Ishnach, the centre of Ireland, they came upon the third of the queens, Eru, the wife of Magrania. Welcome, warriors, she cried. To you who have come from afar, this island shall henceforth belong. And from the setting to the rising sun, there is no better land. In other words, either Ireland is better when it's in darkness, or she's referring to a land among the stars. It's poetic and fascinating. And your race will be the most perfect the world has ever seen. These are fair words and a good prophecy, said Amergin. It will be no thanks to you, broke in Dun, Meal's eldest son. Whatever success we have, we shall owe to our own strength. That which I prophesy has no concern with you, retorted the goddess. And neither you nor your descendants will live to enjoy this island. Then, turning to Amergin, she too asked that Ireland might be called after her. It shall be its principal name, Amergin promised. And so it has happened. Of the three ancient names of Ireland, Banba, Fola, and Eru, The last in its genitive form of Aaron is the one that has survived. The invaders came to Tara, then called Drumcain, that is, the beautiful hill. Macol, Macecht, and Magrania, who were the two of the Danann kings, met them with all the host of the Gaelic gods. As was usual, they held a parley. The people of the goddess Danu complained that they had been taken by surprise. And the Milesians admitted that to invade a country without having first warned its inhabitants was not strictly according to the courtesies of chivalrous warfare. The Tuatha De Danann proposed to the invaders that they should leave the island for 3 days, during which they themselves would decide whether to fight for their kingdom or to surrender it. But the Milesians did not care for this, for they knew that as soon as they were out of the island, the Tuatha De Danann would oppose them with druidical enchantments, so that they would not be able to make a fresh landing. In the end, Macol, Macecht, and Magrania offered to submit the matter to the arbitration of Amergin, the Milesians' own lawgiver, with the express stipulation that, if he gave an obviously partial judgment, he was to suffer death at their hands. Dunn asked his druid if he were prepared to accept this very delicate duty. Amergin replied that he was, and at once delivered the first judgment pronounced by the Milesians in Ireland. The men whom we found dwelling in the land, to them is possession due by right. It is therefore your duty to set out to sea over 9 green waves. And if you shall be able to effect a landing again in spite of them, you are to engage them in battle. And I adjudge to you the land in which you found them living. I adjudge to you the land wherein you found them dwelling by the right of battle. But although you may desire the land which these people possess, yet yours is the duty to show them justice. I forbid you from injustice to those who you have found in the land, however you may desire to obtain it. This judgment was considered fair by both parties. The Milesians returned to their ships and waited at a distance of 9 waves' length from the land until the signal was given to attack, while the Tuatha De Danann, drawn up upon the beach, were ready with their druidical spells to oppose them. The signal was given, and the Milesians bent to their oars. Forgive me for one moment. I'm going to turn off my little heater because it's a touch warm in the I was going to say in the shack, the man shack, the radio shack in the library. I do apologize for the interruption even. The signal was given and the Milesians bent to their oars, but they had hardly started before they discovered that a strong wind was blowing straight towards them from the shore, so that they could make no progress. At first they thought it might be a natural breeze, but Dunn smelt magic in it. He sent a man to climb the mast of his ship and see if the wind blew as strong at that height as it did at the level of the sea. The man returned, reporting that the air was quite still up aloft. Evidently, it was a druidical wind. But Amergin soon coped with it. Lifting up his voice, he invoked the land of Ireland itself, a power higher than the gods it sheltered. I invoke the land of Eru, the shining, shining sea, the fertile, fertile hill, the wooded vale, the river abundant, abundant in water, the fishful, fishful lake. In such strain runs the original incantation, one of those magic formulas whose power was held by ancient and still is held by savage races to reside in their exact consecrated wording rather than in their meaning. To us it sounds nonsense, and so no doubt it did to those who put the old Irish mythical traditions into literary shape, for a later version expands and explains it as follows. I implore, by the way, the original versions of this and the following charm are from de Jubainville, Celtic Mythology Irlandais, the later from Professor Owen Connellan's translation of Volume 5 of the Transactions of the Ossianic Society. Some of these poems, explains the professor, have been glossed by writers or commentators of the Middle Ages, without which it would be almost impossible now for any Irish scholar to interpret them, and it is proper to remark that the translation accompanying them is more in accordance with this gloss than the original text. I implore that we may regain the land of Erin, we who have come over the lofty waves. This land whose mountains are great and extensive, whose streams are clear and numerous, whose woods abound with various fruit. Its rivers and waterfalls are large and beautiful. Its lakes are broad and widely spread. It abounds with fountains on elevated grounds. May we gain power and dominion over its tribes. May we have kings of our own ruling at Tara. May Tara be the regal residence of our many succeeding kings. May the Milesians be the conqueror of its people. May our ships anchor in its harbours. May they trade along the coast of Erin. May Erimon be its first ruling monarch. May the descendants of Ir and Eber be mighty kings. I implore that we may regain the land of Erin. I implore. The incantation proved effectual. The land of Ireland was pleased to be propitious, and the druidical wind dropped down. But success was not quite so easy as they had hoped. Manannán, son of the sea and lord of headlands, shook his magic mantle at them and hurled a fresh tempest out over the deep. The galleys of the Milesians were tossed helplessly on the waves. Many sank with their crews. Dun was among the lost, thus fulfilling Eru's prophecy, and 3 other sons of Meal also perished. By the way, one of those was Culpa, the swordsman. And Culpa, after Amergin landed on the Boyne estuary, a couple of miles east of me here, just outside Drogheda at Inverculpa, Culpa was buried, and the place name is derived from him, according to one of the stories of the Dinshanicus. In the end, a broken remnant, after long beating about the coasts, came to the shore at the mouth of the River Boyne. They landed, and Amergin, from the shore, invoked the aid of the sea as he had already done that of the land. Sea full of fish, fertile land, fish swarming up, fish there, underwave bird, great fish, crabs whole, fish swarming up, sea full of fish, which, being interpreted like the preceding charm, seems to have meant, may the fishes of the sea crowd in shoals to the land for our use. May the waves of the sea drive forth to the shore abundance of fish. May the salmon swim abundantly into our nets. May all kinds of fish come plentifully to us from the sea. May its flat fishes also come in abundance. This poem I compose at the seashore, that fishes may swim in shoals to our coast. Then, gathering their forces, they marched on the people of the goddess Danu. 2 battles were fought, the first in Glen Foishi, the valley of the Slievemish Mountains south of Tralee, and the second at Tolchu, now called Teltown, Tolchu being in County Meath. In both, the gods were beaten. Their 3 kings were killed by the 3 surviving sons of Meal, Macul by Eber, Macecht by Erimon, and Magrigne by the druid Amergin. Defeated and disheartened, they gave in, and, retiring beneath the earth, left the surface of the land to their conquerors. From this day begins the history of Ireland according to the annalists. Meal's eldest son, Dun, having perished, the kingdom fell by right to the second Erimon. But Eber, the 3rd son, backed by his followers, insisted upon a partition, and Ireland was divided into 2 equal parts. At the end of a year, however, war broke out between the brothers. Eber was killed in battle, and Erimon took the sole rule. That is as much as I propose to read at the moment, because I'll tell you why. We will be coming back to Squire, because Squire will provide us with several episodes of Live Irish Myths. So you can see that, okay, the language at times is slightly antiquated, and he does allow himself a little bit of latitude in his translations, but by and large, it's a fairly faithful rendering of the arrival of the Milesians according to the Book of Invasions. Now, if you are so interested You know, you could get yourself the Irish Texts Society volume, Laura Gawala, Part 5, which contains the Section 8, the Sons of Meal, and Section 9, the Role of Kings. And see the Irish and on the opposite page, the English translation, and follow it and judge for yourself how closely Squire stuck to the plot. This will cost you a lot more. I'd say you'll get this one for $5 or the equivalent in euros. This one, you'll probably pay 48 euros, I think, on the Irish Text Society website. But I know that some of you will be interested in having the scholarly work. Now, very quickly, before I finish, I must show you this. So I picked this up, and I think I mentioned it at the time. I picked this up in 2018. It's in hardback with a lovely dust jacket. It's called Celtic Mythology, and there's no author listed on it. And I was very interested in it, and I picked it up, and I said, I'm definitely buying that, and I bought it, of course. And then I was leafing through it, and I said, The Conquest of the Gods by Mortals. Where have I heard that chapter title before? And I realized that this is, in fact, a version of the Squire book. Now, in comparing both, I think this one is missing. It's not missing. I don't think it has all of the text of the paperback. So that's why I've used the paperback. But it is certainly beautifully produced. So there's the beginning of that chapter there, chapter 10, The Conquest of the Gods by Mortals. The paper is of high quality. As I said, it's hardback, and it's got a lovely dust jacket. And inside the hardback book, the hardback cover is the same as the dust jacket. I've dropped my bookmark again. Seems to be the night for it. And I only had 3 whiskies before I started, no, I'm only joking. I haven't had a drop yet, although I think I will imbibe, if you would permit me. So there are different versions of it. So this one's confusing because it doesn't, I'm pretty sure it doesn't mention Charles Squire anywhere, being the original author of the book. It is surprising. But anyway, it may not all be Squire's work either. Yeah, Survivals of the Celtic Paganism into Modern Times. It is basically the same work, but it's a beautiful version of the same. Anyway, if there are any questions or comments, I will hang around. Look, so just to rewind and just to say that if you're sort of just becoming interested in Irish mythology, and you've been maybe watching a couple of the videos, or you've been on the website or whatever, Squire really is a very good starting place. He has his detractors, but just remember that when you're reading the likes of Squire, remember that scholarship has moved on in a century. And remember that if you become more interested and you want to become more scholarly, that's when you hit the Irish Text Society and the academic translations and the more recent publications. But there's a very cheap and easy way to get interested in Irish mythology. It is to buy. I buy a lot of stuff secondhand. No shame in saying it. Is to buy the likes of Squire, to buy the likes of Ancient Irish Tales, and to buy MacKillop's Oxford Dictionary of Celtic Mythology. I promise you that if you buy those 3, you will have in your possession a wonderfully comprehensive introduction to Celtic mythology, to Irish mythology. You may not wish to take it any further than that. And if you don't, I think you will still be greatly rewarded. It's very interesting that the Senate, they have done a lot of publications. I have some of them there. Celtic Fairy Tales by Joseph Jacobs. I did it again. I used the F word. Middle Ages by Gerber. Myths and Legends of the Celts. I think that's Rolleston, and I have 2 copies of that. It's both by Senate, but both slightly different reproductions of it. It's the same book, but slightly differently reproduced. And even one on North American Indian mythology, which is fantastic. The myths and legends of the North American Indians. But also, I know I'm up off the chair and I'm getting excited, but don't forget that if you're interested, for instance, in the annals, like the annals are available in these forgotten books, facsimile reprints, and they're very, very reasonably priced, and they're largely produced in a very readable facsimile. So you're getting exactly what was in the original, but at a fraction of the price. Forgotten books, you can find those online. In fact, if you subscribe, and I don't think it costs much to subscribe, you can download PDFs of them. So you don't necessarily have to always go the expensive route. Now, I think in the case of Laura Gawala, you would, I think there were a couple of volumes of that available on archive.org as PDF downloads at one point. And I have to say, I'm not sure about the legalities of that, because you always have to check whether stuff is in copyright or not and be fair to the authors, you know, and the copyright owners. The aforementioned Rolleston, it would also supplement the foregoing. So if you have Squire and you have Ancient Irish Tales and you have MacKillop, you might be interested in adding Rolleston to your collection. Again, it can be picked up very cheaply secondhand, and I'm sure there are cheap new reprints to be bought. So you would have in your possession, as I said, a very good primer, or a set of books that would act as a good primer in terms of getting familiar with the mythology. So anyway, that's it for the moment. I think I will. I'm delighted that I finally got to do a book talk this week. I was it turned out to be very busy midweek last week. I'm currently writing my new book, and I'm trying to give that as much time as I can. And in the middle of last week, I was also editing the podcast interview with Richard Moore, which, as I say, is only available to patrons at the moment, but will become available publicly down the line. And I'm glad to have had the opportunity to do a book talk, because we didn't do one last week, and I'd like to keep them weekly. So the next time we're meeting is, I think, Monday night. And the reason I say I think that is the solstice, because it's the evening time, I can't imagine that there'll be a problem. Don't forget that the solstice live stream will be on Monday. Hoping to do something myself around that, some sort of a pre-solstice broadcast. But the solstice broadcast, the link to it was shared earlier on the Mythical Ireland page on Facebook, and also on the Mythical Ireland community page. I think it's gov.ie /Newgrange. Now, at the moment, that link is showing as a sorry, I'll just go back into it and tell you exactly what it says. Earlier on, it was saying, yes, sorry, it was saying, sorry, I'm all over the place here. It was saying, oh yeah, they were having technical problems earlier on, but the page is actually there now. So gov.ie /Newgrange. And the broadcast is being held on 3 mornings, which is brilliant, because if it's cloudy 1 or 2 of those mornings, you know, Sunday at 8:45 Irish time, Monday, Sunday the 20th, Monday the 21st, and Tuesday the 22nd at 8:45 a.m. Members of the public are advised not to travel to Newgrange on the morning of the winter solstice, as access to the site will not be facilitated. The cooperation of the public is greatly appreciated. And there's a video, so I'll watch that now shortly. In the meantime, take it handy. Thank you, everybody. Did I miss anybody on YouTube saying anything? Oh, yes, of course. Pagan Tree reminds me that the great conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn is on Monday too. I've been trying to capture them daily, as you've probably seen, and I did so earlier this evening at the side of the road at Newgrange. I got a picture of the two of them over the Great Monument. So you might be interested in catching up with those on the main Facebook page, which is what a lot of you are watching this on. Thanks for watching, folks, and we'll see you on Monday. If we don't see you beforehand, it'd be nice to do the occasional impromptu live stream, which I have done, as you know, over time. So we might do one of those as well. But live Irish Myths. But before live Irish Myths, don't forget Sunday solstice broadcast, Monday and Tuesday solstice broadcast. So that's a very inconvenient time for some of the USA. 8:45 a.m. is 3:45 a.m. Eastern time, but thankfully it is 3/4 of an hour past midnight on the West Coast. So those of you who wish to stay up late may be able to get to see it. Those of you on the East Coast will have to set your alarm clocks and get up in the middle of the night, maybe go to bed early the previous night. In the meantime, take it handy. Don't forget to stay safe, maintain social distancing, coughing and sneezing etiquette, wear a mask if it's required of you to do so. Use hand sanitizer and wash your hands regularly. And just do everything that you can to keep yourself safe until such time as we have proper vaccination and we can start hugging and meeting each other again. And at that stage, hopefully we'll have a great gathering of the Tua somewhere at a sacred site in Ireland and have a celebration and a feast and a fire. We won't light a fire at a sacred site. We will light it in proximity to a sacred site. In the meantime, Ichawa, Colasov, Slongafol, and most importantly, Tog Gubogay. Take it easy.